The Han military was one of the most advanced of its time. With advancements in crossbow technology and swords, they dominated the empires of the time. They started military training at age 23. The Han also created paper, printing, and the compass, 3 things we still use today. With the advancement of technology, also came Silk Road trade. Chang'an was the first capital and the center of roads in the Han Dynasty. The imperial city became the eastern end of the Silk Road and received a lot of trade. The Silk Road was one of the Han Dynasty's greatest accomplishments. Its sole purpose was for the transportation of silk throughout the territories of China. The reason for this was because the ruler decided to expand from the Central Plain to the western regions. The ruler had sent another man through a journey through these newfound territories, and in the process, it pioneered the new Silk Road. The dynasty is generally seen as a period of economic success, though there is still a period of apparent decline too in this time. The economy had been financially discouraged due to failures of the previous dynasty. Much of the success of the empires rested on the promotion of trade and economic integration by building and maintaining roads and issuing currencies. The Han rulers cared much for this currency, as it was seen as the top priority. Although finance was important, paying taxes and dealing with economic problems was a slight burden to those of the higher class farmers that had to pay not only a poll tax, but also a heavy land tax to farm where they were. During this time, the money had also been standardized so that it could make for an easier living situation for the people of the Han Dynasty. The Han Empire was Confucianist. It had a strong belief in filial piety and the father-son relationship. The scholar gentry held top positions because they were seen as the gentlemen of the Confucianist society. The Han government was also divided into 4 classes: the landlord, merchant, craftsman, and peasant. The emperor, of course, was at the top. Although there were divisions of class, many customs were patriarchal, also became more widespread. As a result, many artists started creating religious works. The spread of different religions created a diverse variety of artworks and different depictions of people's faith. For example, when Buddhism reached China, artists created depictions of Buddha and his followers. As well, Taoism had become popular, so many artists would create artworks based on the 5 elements. Another invention that arose in this time period was the cutting of paper to make art, that was used a lot of times in New Year's celebrations. Had a central bureaucracy mixed with feudalism. As the capital of the empire, the city was the center of all government activity, and its position as a trade center made it the perfect place to conduct dealings. The dynasty worshipped the 5 elements based off of Taoism and the supreme unity. These were then replaced by sacrifices to heaven and earth. Altars and shrines were built inside Chang'an, and the emperor would pay respects. Buddhism was then introduced, most likely through Silk Road trade, in 1st century BCE. Some royalty worshipped it, and a huge pagoda was built. Eventually, many people began following it. The main Chinese philosophies originated during the Warring States period, but Confucianism and Taoism, weren't taken really seriously until the Han Dynasty. Confucianism was considered one of the most significant ideologies of China, especially in the Han Dynasty. Confucianists participated in ancestor worship. Filial piety created a social hierarchy that shaped gender roles that are still prominent today. The Confucianist society was very patriarchal. Younger people would defer to their elders and then to men. Taoism was also big during the Han Dynasty. Taoism existed along and usually supplemented Confucianism. Pure Taoist governments were not very large, but small rural communities rejected the main government. Tai Chi is a form of a subsection of Taoism. The forms and movements are basic mentalities that are taken from Taoist principles. Tai Chi later became a form of martial arts that many people practice and still practice today. Taoism is also structured around the 5 elements of wood, water, earth, metal, and fire. Feng Shui is a practice structured around the 5 elements and stems from Taoism. It is widely studied and taken into serious account for planning and building designs. The 5 elements are also a metaphor that Taoist philosophers use to represent relationships, changes, interactions, and interdependence of everything in the universe, in the sense that the 5 elements move in a cycle of support and cycle of control. The mentality behind this recognizes a continuous cycle of balance. People also use it to explain the season changes by first assigning the elements to the seasons. Peasants would refer to the 5 elements in their cycles for effective ways to farm and harvest, and prepare their homes for any major weather changes.